Hi, this is Professor Marsh, and this is the lesson 20 in the Vita Volunteers program. So we're getting close to the end of Unit 2 and getting to the home stretch. So in lesson 19, we concluded by watching the tax slayer video, which has lots of information regarding itemized deductions, and so you have a good introduction to the topic. If the taxpayer is using the standard deduction, the tax slayer software automatically computes the standard deduction based on the information that you've entered in the taxpayer's filing status and exemptions and everything else on the form 13614-C, the intake interview and quality review worksheet. So let's get into the meat of the various topics for itemized deductions and take a look at this. So this is lesson 20, and there'll be a link to it in your materials. And so go ahead and pull up. This is the advanced course. So if you're just taking the basic certification, you don't need this lecture and you don't need most of these materials. So, but if you are going to take the advanced certification, then what you want to do is to go to the home page for itemized deductions and look at the different information that's there, and you'll see that like many of the other lessons, there are a number of training toolkit buttons at the top. At the bottom of the page, the skills workout, and there's also a link to that same tax layer tutorial that we just looked at in lesson 19, which has a lot of the material about itemized deductions. And then you'll also see links to a number of IRS publications and to topics in the section, and some hot buttons over on the top right-hand side as far as the particular items of itemized deductions. So medical and dental expenses are 1, taxes are 2, interest is 3, charitable gifts is 4, and miscellaneous deductions used to be 5, but isn't really anymore. So miscellaneous deductions are out now, but you'll see the lesson on that. And if you go to the detail, you'll see this is a little bit longer because we do have these 4 or 5 technical topics. So it's a little bit longer than the standard deduction, which I really only had 2 or 3 technical issues. But for itemized deductions, what you're going to do is you're going to try to add up all of the IRS's itemized deductions and see if they exceed the standard deduction. And if that's the case, then almost every taxpayer is going to want to itemize as opposed to using the standard deduction. But now that the standard deduction after 2017 is so much higher, many taxpayers find that the standard deduction is fine for them, that gives them as much of a tax benefit or more of a tax benefit that itemizing would, because they don't have that much in terms of taxes and medical expenses and interest and charitable contributions to equal the amount of the standard deduction. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to give our taxpayers the best deal as far as reducing their taxes from adjusted gross income down to taxable income. We calculate the tax based on taxable income, so we want to get the largest possible reduction for our taxpayers in calculating taxable income. So if you go to the first page, you'll see the link to 4491, publication 4491. Don't use that link. Go to your own downloaded copy of publication 4491 and go to section 20 of the publication 4491, and then also open publication 4012 and go to tab F. So those are the publications that we use in the Vita program, and those are the places where you'll find the information about itemized deductions. And same comment about the second page. As far as the intake interview quality review sheet, you'll see that it does take you to part 4, which has a number of things about expenses, and you'll see the intake interview quality review sheet materials about itemized deductions, and that in addition to part 4, you'll see a number of questions with respect to those itemized deductions. If you look at question 4 and part 4, do you have any of the following? And they ask about medical and dental, mortgage interest, taxes, and charitable contributions. And so just go ahead and take a look at that. That's just the intake and interview form. That's where you check the boxes. And then let's go on to the next page in our skills workout. So on page 3, you'll see a link to some job aids. Again, make sure that you're looking at the current version of publication 4012 tab F, and then you'll get some questions about who should itemize. And so your first question on page 4, who should itemize, and you'll see that the person who has to itemize is Gary, whose wife files a separate return. And so you can click on those possible answers and see the reasons why D is the correct answer on page 4. And then you have some case studies, pages 5 through 11, on medical and dental expenses. Now, medical and dental expenses are only deductible to the extent that they exceed 7.5% of the taxpayer's adjusted gross income. You don't get a deduction unless your medical and dental expenses are more than 7.5% of your adjusted gross income. So if your adjusted gross income is $50,000, which would be, not atypical for one of our taxpayers at the Vita clinic, 7.5% of that is going to be $3,750. And so unless they have unreimbursed medical and dental expenses exceeding $3,750, and that would be a tremendous expense for someone in that income bracket, then they're probably not going to get any benefit from medical and dental expenses. So then you go on to pages 12 and 13, and they have some questions about deductible taxes. The taxes that are deductible for federal income tax purposes are state and local taxes. So you can't deduct the federal taxes that you pay, but you can deduct the state and local taxes. So state income tax, property taxes, both on real estate and also on vehicles. These can be deductible taxes, but they are only deductible up to a limit of $10,000 per taxpayer. So that's a very small limit. And certainly something that we wouldn't expect to find with most of our clients at the Vita clinic. So in any event, just understand those rules. And then there's mortgage interest, and there are a lot of complicated rules about mortgage interest. There are limits on how big the mortgage can be, but probably our customers, if they own their own home and they're at the Vita clinic, will not have mortgages large enough to exceed the limits, although you can review what's in there and you can see what happens. And there's also there are limits on home equity loans and things of that nature that are going to limit the amount of the deduction for interest. So take a look at that, and then you can see that there's a number of categories of non-deductible interest. Then you get to page 16, and there are 4 or 5 pages on gifts to charity. I guess 5 pages about what's deductible on a gift to charity. It has to be a gift to a charitable organization, not to a chamber of commerce, like is in case study number 1. The gift can't be just to needy individuals. It can't just be like you're, handing $20 to the person with the homeless sign on the side of the interstate. This has to be a gift to a charitable organization that's recognized by the Internal Revenue Service as such. And you can see the other questions about gifts to charity. So do take a look at that. There's actually a comprehensive case study for Julia on page 20, and that's a really good summary of the rules with respect to charitable contributions. Then on page 31, we have poor Philip here, who is trapped in the past. He wants to take miscellaneous itemized deductions. Those were outlawed in the 2017 tax bill as the Congress lowered the rates for taxes. They also eliminated some deductions, and all these deductions that used to be deductible in the past are no longer deductible today in 2022 after that 2017 tax bill. Then on page 22, there's a list of out-of-scope items, and then page 23 through 26 are our usual certification warm-up and drills and practice. And then on page 27, you'll see the link to the very informative TaxSlayer tutorial on how to enter these various items into their software. So anyhow, take a look at all that, and good luck with your study, and we'll be back in touch sometime soon. So I think next lessons will be about credits and payments, and actually calculating the refund or tax due. Moving on to the third unit and getting toward the end of the course. Bye-bye.